everyone, it's Michelle from Scrap Secrets, and welcome to card number 6 of the Countdown to Christmas card series. It's beginning to look a lot like cocktails. This is the card that we're going to create today, and I am going to be using a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch white top folding card base. The pattern paper is 4 by 5 1/4, and the white piece that's loaded into the Stamp Perfect is 3 3/4 by 5 inches. Now I'm taking a sentiment from the MFT Sassy Pants Holiday that says it's beginning to look a lot like cocktails, and we are going to be stamping it in Catherine Pooler Midnight ink. I'm going to be stamping it a couple times because I didn't get a great impression the first time. I was having a difficult time with this ink tonight. I don't know what was wrong. It was, I just got it all over me, and it just wasn't, it was stamping nicely, but it just was really, really messy. So I think that actually moving on, if I'm just doing sentiments like this, I probably will use the VersaFine Onyx black ink for it because I don't find it to be as messy as this, and I'll probably just save the Catherine Pooler for my images that I watercolor or use Copic markers for. So after I clean that off, we are going to get started on working on the background. I wanted to create my own pattern paper for this, but I wanted to mask off the sentiment to make it look like the sentiment cut right through the background of the pattern paper. So that is a piece of copy paper that is cut to 3/4 of an inch by 3 3/4, and we're going to start with some of the stamps from the Honeybee stamp set called Raise a Glass. Now there are coordinating dies for this, and I have them, and I thought about using them, but I decided that I just wanted to stamp directly on the paper to create the background. I'm using a glass block. I'm not using the Stamp Perfect. I probably should have taken this off of the mat when I did this, but I decided not to. I did a background earlier than this, and I kind of messed it up, so I used that kind of as a guide of what not to do when I was creating this one. So a couple tricks here for doing pattern paper and having your sentiment cut through it. What you want to do is make sure that you stamp images right around all of the sentiment to make it look like it's really cutting through it. So have the sentiments or have the images going off the sentiment and off the sides of the paper. That will also help it look like it was pattern paper if it's not, everything isn't 100% stamped on your background. You want some of your images to go off the sides to make it look more realistic. So I'm just using all of the glasses, the different types of glasses that are included in the set, rotating them and making sure that they all go different ways, and just trying to fill in as much of the background as possible. And what I like doing is using the larger images first, and then I have 2 smaller images that I'm going to go in with afterwards to fill in a lot of those blank spaces. And that's going to be a shot glass and then 3 ice cubes that are all on top of each other. I didn't get a good impression on those 2 glasses on the top right. I don't think that I put enough pressure on there, but it doesn't really look like it in the end. It all turns out fine. So now you're going to see I'm going to switch to the shot glass, and I'm just going to go in and fill in some of the areas, again taking the shot glass and putting it off of the paper as well as filling in the little spots. And then the next one I actually stamped too close to that glass. It's actually kind of on top of it. I should not have done that. I should have moved it over a little bit, but it is what it is. I usually make at least one mistake in the card that I really can't fix, and that was one of them. But in the end, I don't think it turned out too bad. Now, I apologize for my head here because I have to get right over the image to make sure that it doesn't double stamp. And again, the same thing with this image, like the shot glasses, I am going to stamp it off of the page in certain areas. So once that is done, we are going to start using the liquid portions of the stamp set and filling in the glasses. Now, you could color these in with Copic markers, colored pencils, watercolor them. I decided the quickest and easiest way for me was to just use the stamp set for the whole thing. So that first ink that you saw was Hero Arts Tide Pool. The second ink that I'm going to use is Hero Arts Ultra Pink. I will be using Simon Says Stamp Doll Pink and Audrey Blue as well to fill in the liquid in the other glasses. And I kind of used the opposite colors on each of the stamp sets that I did in the first one. This glass was blue in the beginning and the blue glass was actually pink. So I kind of did opposite colors, but I just kind of picked up whatever color was on top of the pile of ink cubes at that moment. Now you'll see here I also mess up a little bit, and you'll see my baby hairs because I was a mess. But you'll see when I use the Simon Says Stamp Audrey Blue, on the right hand side of the glass, there's too much of a white spot, so I just move that stamp over a little bit and line it back up, and that will fill in the rest of it. It's a good way to do it. You can also take a stylus tool and dip it in your ink pad and just kind of color that in, or you probably even could take in an ink blending, not an ink blending tool, but the blending stumps, and do that same thing as well. So here's the last color of the 4 colors that I use, and that is the Simon Says Stamp Doll Pink. And I stamp it a couple times because that mask has a little bit of dimension to it, so sometimes it doesn't stamp perfectly. So I just wanted to get as much of that image colored in as possible. These images also, these inks also dry back darker and solid. If you saw in the beginning when it's stamped, it doesn't look like it was a solid image. And then if you look at the glass on the bottom left-hand corner, you'll notice that it is a solid color now. So you can see that's the same image that I'm stamping right now as the one at the bottom, the color, and the top one looks splotchy. So you'll only see me do a little bit more of this stamping because it's very repetitive. I think I only put in the glasses, so you'll see that, and then I do that one in pink. And then the next thing I wanted to do was I wanted to give some shading to the ice cubes as well as the glasses, like the stems of it and the top that doesn't have color on it. So I am using a B00 Copic Chow marker and just coloring in a little bit of the ice cubes and giving some shading. And I will also use C0 to fill in the glasses. So I use a little bit of blue and a little bit of gray just to give a little bit of shading, because those would be clear or white, but it would still have a little bit of shadows on it. So I just wanted to make it look like I didn't forget about those images. So just doing that very quickly. And then we will move on to the next part, revealing the sentiment. So there is the background and what it looks like with the sentiment. Now somehow I got ink on the top left-hand corner. I have no idea how I did it. So I took my white gel pen and I just colored it in, and you really can't see it. I will do something later on to cover it up. And now I'm taking my mono sand eraser to try to get rid of an ink smudge, and it kind of works, but not really. But I go back in with that white gel pen and just go over that as well. So those are good ways to hide things, and then I'll show you another way once we put the card together. So just going over some of it with the white gel pen to just try to get that, get as much of that ink off there as possible. Now we're going to get ready to put the card together. I'm going to use my ATG gun to put the pattern paper to the card base, and then after that is done, we will put the top panel, the panel that we created the background for, on top of that paper, that designer paper or that pattern paper. And as you can see in the upper left hand corner of the screen, I have the Winter Wonderland from Kindred Stamps little pot of sequins there, as well as off to the side, you can't really see it, I have some Trinity stamp ones, and this is the MFT On Point Precision Glue, and that is a perfect way to hide it. So the white gel pen hid most of it, but this will hide the rest of the the mistakes. So I put a sequence on there. That's like a pearlish one. The one that I had was a silver sequin, and I was just trying to get stuff out there, and that one just flew out. So I said, okay, well, I'll use that one. I'm sorry, the one at the bottom right under that pink glass is the Trinity one, and that is it's kind of like got multicolors on it. Now, because that's on the corner, I use that block just to hold that down, and I'm just going to put a couple more on there. I like to do them in odd numbers, and I was just trying to kind of trying to place them where I thought there was some extra room, where it would need it, or if it needed to hide something. So that's pretty much it. That was, I believe this is the end of the card. I was just trying to pick up one last one, and then I spill it all over the place, because that's just the kind of night, day, week I've been having. Things have just not been going very well for me. So kind of made a little bit of a mess, but I think that it turned out well. So that's the end of the card. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have comments or questions, please feel free to leave them below. If you haven't subscribed, please click the subscribe button, and I'll be back again real soon for another video. Bye!